But you know, the fact, what's interesting, obviously, you talked to the person who was the head of that investigation at the time, and found out all sorts of covered up bits and pieces and one thing and another, and then got as far as to actually interview the grown up Janet herself.
Yes, I tracked down Janet.
Eventually.
Yeah. I mean, that was, the Enfield case was really kind of almost symbolic for me, because it was. You know, on that first night with Lou, he was like, you come from London, right? And I was like, yeah. He says, you must have heard about the Enfield poltergeist.
And you're like,
no, heard of it. So it was like, it came up straight away. As you say, it's the first thing people really find out. So, and when I kind of, there's a book called This House is Haunted, which was like a bestseller in the 70s, or I think early 80s, which I read, and I just thought, well, this is so extreme now. You know, if I'm being required to believe all this, then you're believing the whole thing about ghosts, not just that it's not just like the stone tape theory or any of the other little theories.
Can you explain the stone tape theory, because that's very interesting? The
stone tape theory is this idea that we all know about, cassette tapes, blank cassette tapes, and it uses iron, ferric oxide, to record information. And the idea is that there's iron is everywhere in nature. It's in the rocks which make old houses up and stuff. So the idea is when there's some extreme emotion going on, so like, say you're worrying that you're about to be murdered by the Roundheads, or your mum's just died, or whatever, somehow there's some interaction with the natural iron around you that captures this emotion, and then under certain, perhaps atmospheric circumstances, this recording can be released, just like recording a tape back.
Yeah. So this also explains why, when there's, when the stories of kind of like seeing Roman soldiers, they're always missing feet.
This famous. Yeah.
Because obviously if it's playback, the foundations have changed.
Yes.
So it's quite interesting how if people see ghosts in homes and things like that sort of like walk through walls as if the wall wasn't there. The chances are the wall wasn't there at that point. There was a door, there was something else, and that most ghost phenomenon can usually be put down to stone tape theory. Do you think, or?
Well, my problem with the stone tape theory is that it doesn't explain interaction with ghosts.
No.
And that's the thing. And so it's really neat, but it doesn't explain so many, experiences that people have had with apparitions. And I mean, the Enfield case is like a blinding example, because there was just, it's a poltergeist thing for a start, so it's a physical thing. I mean, this isn't apparitions, this is things being thrown around, people being levitated, all this kind of stuff. I mean, and as I say, the case is so extreme, it requires you to believe the whole thing. So it requires you to believe that ghosts to have their own consciousness, they are independent thinking things, and they are undead. It's something to do with a dead person, because there's all this stuff happening with the guy who used to live there and died in an armchair in the upstairs room, and it requires you to buy into the whole thing. And when I looked into it, it was just too much for me. I just thought, well, no, I just can't accept that this is true. It's just too insane, it's just too mental. So the first thing I did was I tracked down Maurice Grosse, who, as you say, I mean, he's sadly since died, passed away since the book was published, but he was really generous with his time. I met him twice, and we talked for a few hours each time about the thing. And at first I was, extremely impressed with him, because he had some extremely good, points to make. I mean, really, especially the main thing really being that Janet was 11, 12 years old. The best rational explanation we have for the Enfield poltergeist, the best that the skeptics can come up with, was that she hoaxed it, that she made the whole thing up.
She did admit that she made parts of the story up, didn't she?
Yes, she did, to me later on in the book, yeah.
Well, we're going to have to continue in a moment. We'll also find out from our guest tonight, Will Storr, author of Will Storr Vs the Supernatural. Find out from Will what it's like meeting a Satanist. We get the rest of the story about Janet and the Enfield poltergeist, and what it was like being on the set of Most Haunted. Will Storr in just 1 second. A reminder first, though, you have just over 10 minutes now, that's all, to stand a chance of winning this amazing 7.2 megapixel Casio digital camera. It could be yours if you're our lowest unique bidder by 11:30. You need to send your text in now with your bid. This camera really is quite special.
I'm not doing it, we've got company.
You're embarrassed to do it in front of our sexy guest, aren't you?
Shut up.
I knew you'd
it's
fancy it.
7.2 megapixel. He's got a girlfriend, it says it in his book.
I want to find out how
7.2 megapixel. Shut up. 7.2 megapixel to captures really high quality images and probably orbs. Large 2.5-inch colour display so that you can really see what you're taking a picture of, even if it is an orb or a dust particle, instead of a tiny viewfinder. I'm doing this quickly. I want to get talking to Will. 3 times optical zoom, letting you take really close-up shots. Anti-shake DSP reduces risk of shaky photographs with the camera if it's not house steady whilst taking photographs of ghosts or any other moving objects. Elegant metal design, complete with carry case.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. I did prefer the sexy panting voice that you did in before, though. Right, so if you'd like to stand a chance of winning that camera, all you got to do is text LBC followed by a space and then your bid in pence to 88821. So, for example, to bid, say, 45p, you text LBC and then a space and then 45 to 88821. The auction ends in exactly 10 minutes from now. The lowest unique bidder wins a brilliant Casio digital camera. It could be yours for a fraction of its actual value. If you're our lowest unique bidder, those texts cost £1.50 plus your normal network charges, and full terms and conditions are at lbc.co.uk. I didn't mean to describe you as sexy from my point of view, Will, by the way. It was actually because
too late, you've already done it. Too late,
I was referring to you from Becky's time.
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought I'd put
Have you got Brokeback Mountain for the weekend? I know you like that film.
I'm very broad-minded.
We could watch it together.
As Will pointed out, or Becky did, he has got a girlfriend, and she was very, very affected by all of this. We'll come to that in a while, Will. You travelled, as you started to explain, the length and breadth of the UK on your mission, from Scunthorpe to Clacton, and the States to St Peter's Square as well. And it was, I think, in Enfield, certainly, whilst in the UK, there were massive turning points for you. And you were just talking about Janet, who, for those that don't know the story, you've already explained it. For those that have just switched on, in a nutshell, the Enfield poltergeist is...
Yeah, it's probably the world's best recorded and most famous poltergeist case. It lasted for 18 months at the end of the 70s, in a council house in Enfield, and very controversial and very famous. And like I say, I was initially quite sceptical about it, just because it's just so dramatic, and if you accept that you believe it, then you really are accepting that you believe in the whole ghost thing.
Do you believe it, Becky?
I mean, I've looked at those photographs, and I don't believe that... See, the problem is with it, and which is documented in your book as well, is the fact that for a lot of the things that sort of happened, there weren't people in the room. And then there are a lot of things that did happen where there were lots of people in the room. For example, the red pen on the ceiling and things like that the child had been lifted up to the ceiling so could actually draw a red pen. But it was fascinating in the book when she actually said that there were aspects that she faked because of the pressure she was put under to have results.
Well, this is it. I mean, the Maurice Gross, the lead investigator, was kind of adamant. He's kind of said, look, they're kids. It was her and her sister. They were about 12 and 14, and every time they come home from school, and she said the same to me, there'd be people there asking her questions, poking her around. A lot of them were sceptical, kind of physicists and stuff, and we were just kind of, okay, if you're, being quite aggressive about it and treating them with some contempt. So, after a while, they got fed up with it. They started mucking around and teasing them.
You would?
But the level of teasing was things like they'd bend a spoon. Things like that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, which is very different from some of the other phenomena, which Morris said was real. I mean, one of the most dramatic things, which I remember him saying, was that there was one day where, because every night Janet would be kind of pulled out of her bed and the bed would be pulled around, there'd be lots of physical things thrown around. They took everything out of the bedroom, everything, furniture, Janet, posters, wardrobes, everything out of the bedroom, and closed the door to see what would happen. And then they heard a massive wrenching sound and all ran up there, and the iron fireplace had been pulled out of the wall. Oh. I mean, that is different to a bent spoon. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and so he said it was immediately obvious, kind of when they've been faking stuff, and it was kind of understandable. I mean, these are kind of young human beings. I mean, but the main thing about the Enfield thing, I mean, and I did spend a lot of time looking into this, and there are aspects of it that troubled me a bit, particularly some of the stuff that a researcher called Anita Gregory had to say. But the main thing is that everything that happened in Enfield is absolutely consistent with recorded poltergeist phenomenon that goes back centuries.